Hello, hello, welcome. My name is Preston Jacobs. We're talking about whatever we want to talk about, usually a bunch of ice and fire stuff. Um, Tonight I wanted to talk about how weird the Quentyn story is. And I don't mean like weird in the sense of whether he's dead or alive. That's kind of irrelevant to the discussion I'm talking about. Um, but I think there fundamentally is something very weird about the Quentyn story, and that first you kind of ask yourself like, why is he a point of view? Um, like, why did George choose to have Quentyn be a point of view? Period. What even was that function? Because whether Quentyn's dead or alive, he doesn't necessarily need to be a POV. And when you go through the writing process for Dance with Dragons, we find that when it comes to the other points of view, Mel, John Kahn, Barristan, they were each created because George had hit a writing block in his mind. He didn't know how to advance a story. He was stuck, and he creates a new point of view, and it refreshes him. He gets something said. He advances the story, and then he can keep going. With John, it's Melisandre. With Tyrion, it's John Kahn, and with Daenerys, it's Barristan. There was clearly some information about sending Mance south. He wasn't able to get it done without creating the Melisandre point of view. There was information with regards to the Golden Company and everything he just couldn't do the Lost Lord information from Tyrion's point of view. So he rewrote it from John Kahn's, got that done. And then Barristan, the timing of when Dany was going to leave and the politics and the war and everything, it was necessary for Barristan to be created. Which brings up like, why on earth was Quentyn created? And at some point, George did make this decision. I mean, when he was originally trying to write A Dance with Dragons, back when it was combined with A Feast for Crows, there was no plan to have Quentyn. He was going to do his 5-year gap, and then he's like, crap, if I do the 5-year gap, what about all the stuff that's happening on the Iron Isles and Dorne? I'll do the mega prologue. And then the mega prologue, and then he's like, let's get rid of the 5-year gap, but he still had this mega prologue, and the mega prologue got bigger, and then it broke out into the Ironborn and Dornish chapters. Quentyn wasn't created at this point. It was just Arianne. So, in a sense, you could still have, and I have here some chapters here, but you could have that Arianne, the Princess of the Tower chapter, where, oh my gosh, I'm sending somebody off to Slaver's Bay, and then Quentyn shows up in Daenerys 7, not even from his point of view. But something happened. And keep in mind that like the Merchant's Man is created in a very slow period for George. He's mainly writing, John around this, like revising John at this point. And all of a sudden he decides to write The Merchant's Man. Which, by the way, The Merchant's Man, nothing happens in that chapter. It's in case you need to be refreshed, it's Quentyn and Drink talking to a ship captain about how they can get to Slaver's Bay. There's a lot of Slaver's Bay, Valyria, Volantis geography talked about. There's a lot of, but of course, the map in A Dance with Dragons does all of that for us. We didn't need them talking about it, but they do. They talk about the geography of where Old Gis is and going around Valyria and things like this. And there's a lot of geography of Volantis, which is redone in the Tyrion Volantis chapter. It's just, again, pointless. And then so you kind of get a lot of background on Quentyn, and you get a lot of background on Drink. How Drink is this handsome, talkative guy, and how Quentyn is this nervous guy, which leads straight into Daenerys 7. In that Daenerys meets them and is not impressed with Quentyn, and is kind of has the hots for Drink. Weirdly, Arch hardly has any role at all. He just kind of shows up at the end. So, but it wasn't necessarily like necessary. And so I always kind of, you know, The Merchant's Man, it's one of these chapters that you could delete and not too much changes. Because again, it's just like, it's spinning wheels, it's background on Quentyn. But I will say if there's anything in the Merchant's Man chapter, there's motivation established for why Quentyn would steal a dragon. And so I'm pretty sure from the beginning, George had some idea that there was going to be a dragon stealing exercise and at some point. Like, we kind of know that the first chapter that George wrote about Slaver's Bay is Daenerys 9, which is Daznak's pit. He then writes Daenerys 1. And so he kind of knows that we've got this wedding and Daenerys getting distracted and things like this. And we know that in the first chapter, the other dragons, Drogon messes up and they lock up the other dragons. So you can kind of get this idea that if anything, he knows that Quentyn is going to try to steal a dragon. And the Merchant's Man establishes some motivation. It mentions Cletus and Will, and Quentyn talks about how if he messes up, he would have to go back to Dorne ashamed and all of that. So it's not essential, but he writes this chapter that could easily be deleted. And then he writes Daenerys 7, and we know the time period of these chapters pretty well because he writes about them in his blog, each of these. So then he writes Daenerys 7, which is where Quentyn meets Daenerys. And it's mostly, the sequel to Princess in the Tower. He reveals the marriage pact and such. And yeah, it's useful to have the Merchant's Man chapter, but it's not really essential. But what's amazing is the amount of time between them. Like, it's a year later that he gets to this. And then a year and a half after that, he decides, maybe I should have more Quentyn. And so he goes back and writes The Windblown. The Windblown is then shoved between Merchant's Man and Daenerys 7 to establish like how Quentyn got there. It's also a fairly useless chapter. It establishes a lot more on Arch. You get politics on Astapor, who are in the Windblown and things like that. But it's, again, a pretty useless chapter. You could probably delete it. It's great color. It's great color, but it's, considering that you could just have like Quentyn show up in Daenerys 7 and the story still works. And then way, way late, he writes Spurn's Suitor Dragon Tamer. August 2010. And so unlike other chapters, unlike other points of view, he doesn't, where he's writing one character and then he splits it up and he's going from a character. Quentyn is written one chapter at a time. I mean, with the exception of Spurn's Suitor Dragon Tamer, but these are short chapters that kind of just can be counted as the same thing. But there's so much time between them, and and so a lot of people, whether you take the position that this story was about like building up Quentyn's story to this climax where he dies, or he builds up this story to this climax where he survives. Both of those narratives don't really fit how George wrote them. Like, George kind of wrote these chapters just kind of by themselves, not flowing into each other. uh, and so far apart from each other, which, going from not needing him to be a point of view at all, but clearly knowing that there was going to be a dragon stealing plot at some point, but thinking he could do it without a Quentyn point of view, to putting in the Merchant's Man and maybe thinking that he was going to have a dragon tamer stealing chapter in there. Like, he might have thought, well, I don't want to just throw in the dragon tamer stealing chapter. Like, let's establish a little about Quentyn's character that would lead him to do that. Like, him feeling ashamed about going back to Dorne and Cletus and Will. Like, Cletus and Will are very essential parts of why he chooses to steal the dragon. And then just he throws in the Windblown in the middle. It's but as I say, like, examining it all, it's very odd, because the advent of all of this is that I've been trying to think about what I'm going to do in the fanfic with Samwell and Volantis and things like this, and just going through Quentyn and Tyrion's Volantis chapters, and so much time is spent on Volantis that you think, like, oh, Volantis must be going to be really, really important. Or George was just writing and he wasn't really thinking, like, why he needed to write the Volantis information twice about this big sprawling city with a bridge in the middle and slaves and things like that. I don't know, but it's quite striking to go through and be like, man, like, Merchant's Man, you could have cut this. There was no point. I mean, there's other little things. Like, I think maybe for Merchant's Man is that you realize you're reading a lot of Tyrion, Dany, Jon, Tyrion, Dany, Jon, Tyrion, Dany, Jon, and he wants to throw in another POV. He had so many different points of view in Feast that he's like, maybe I need to throw in another point of view here. But it's one of these things where he wasn't stuck, like with the advent of Mel and the advent of John Con and the advent of Barristan, and yet he somehow thought it was important to pop in Quentyn. Now I think it works. My fundamental belief about Quentyn is that George didn't know whether he was going to keep him alive or dead. He left the door open. I think it's very obvious that he left the door open, because you just don't include in a story an unrecognizable body and then cut off the narrative twice, establishing their death, if you wanted to make something a sure thing. Like, he was keeping it all open. But it's but one way or the other, whether it was alive or dead, I don't even know if it was necessary to have him have a point of view. Now, the Dragon Tamer chapter is a really cool chapter. I really do like it. And so maybe he had that really good idea, and he's just like, I have this really great idea for a chapter, the Dragon Tamer chapter. It's going to be awesome. That's probably going to be from Quentyn's point of view. So let's put in at least one more chapter about them, the Merchant's Man. And then it grew into a couple more or something like that. It might have just been like, he had a really good idea. They're going to try to steal a dragon. I want that point of view. I want that in the story. And then everything else kind of fell in. But that's all kind of about it. But it's one of those things to remember, that when reading the Quentyn chapters, that they weren't written all together. They were written a long time apart. It was unlike writing of other point of views, where he writes them in a clutch all by themselves, where he's just writing and then he chooses points to slice. It wasn't written as a single cohesive story that he had planned out. He originally didn't think he needed a Quentyn point of view, and then all of a sudden he popped in the Merchant's Man, and then retroactively put in the Windblown and things like that. Anyway, that's where we are. But Quentyn's alive in the fanfic, and he is going to have some great adventures that you will all get to look forward to. I think I'm gonna have Quentyn have a romantic relationship with Missandei. I think that's gonna happen. Just warning you all. And Missandei is not actually going to be young. He's going to find out that she's like 40. Quentyn, he's alive. He's dead. He's alive. He's dead. Quentyn. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms in your life, PJ. Thank you. I tried calling my mother. She didn't pick up. And my own wife, I went out and I got some sushi for her, but the sushi here in Dominican Republic is not great. So, but nonetheless, I tried to do something nice for the moms out there. He's like, Quentyn is alive. Quentyn could, who knows what George is planning, but Quentyn is alive in the fanfic. He is. Oh, this is interesting. What do you think about the similarities between the Battle of Blackwater and the Han Chinese Red Cliffs battle? I think probably it's a coincidence. George knows a lot about European history. He doesn't know very much about history outside of Europe. So when he writes about Middle East, China, something like that, he doesn't know very much. I would say that if you find a similarity between that and some other East Asian battle, it's probably something you're coming up with, not George. Hey PJ, longtime viewer, first time chatter. Thanks for the fanfic. I was reading A Song of Ice and Fire when I was in 5th grade and just graduated college with wins nowhere to be found. Also, check out Malazan. Well, thank you. 5th grade. Good reader. Yeah, people have told me about Malazan before. They say it's very good and that I should check it out. But I will try. Man, it's a lot of books. Man, that's a lot of books. Jesus, he's writing one book a year. He's got like 20. Oh my God. It's like 27 books in 27 years. Oh my God. See these things, these people that are able to write so fast and prolifically. I just can't imagine. That's I'll read a little bit of it, but thank you. I appreciate it. Explain the Aussie election, etc., to the Americans. I mean, I don't know too much about Australian politics. I know that they have mandatory voting, so it's a little different than in other countries where you have to go to the poll, and so it's something that everybody has to show up, which I think is a pretty cool idea. I mean, people say that it was, again, like a little bit of Canada where everyone was expecting the Conservatives to make some ground, and the left-wing candidate did better. Now, am I confusing things? Isn't Australia the place where the Liberal Party is actually the Conservative Party? Am I making that up? I again, I don't know much about Australian politics. Besides the fact that like gasoline is really important in post-apocalyptic situations. Let's see. Yeah. So in Australia, the Liberal Party is the Conservative Party, and the Labour Party is the is the Liberal Party, right? So, and I guess they won 16 seats, and the Conservatives lost 18 seats. Oh, that's quite a trouncing, actually. Well, yeah, I guess that's the people. Is it the Trump effect? The Trump effect. Um, I'm sure there's a lot of local. I mean, they say all politics is local, so I'm sure what was the actual, the things going on. Cost of living, healthcare, nuclear energy, immigration, insurance, defense. Fair enough. Fair enough. Kind of the same thing. Same thing. Who knows? Trump effect. That's all I got on Australian politics. I mean, I'm not Gladys. I'm not Australian. I can tell you about American politics quite a lot. Does the story really need Quentyn alive, though? It doesn't really need anybody alive. I think Quentyn being alive provides two very important things that are advantageous, and that is he's a POV on the inside of Meereen, and two, he is a character to take Rhaegal as a dragon and bring him back to Westeros, with Victarion taking. No, Victarion would take Rhaegal, and Quentyn would take Viserion. And so the idea is that you'd have two different characters taking Dany's two dragons, splitting up the dragons. And so there's those two advantageous things. But do you see any parallels between Tywin and Joffrey? 12 minutes late. You're awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I'm doing pretty well today. Today's a pretty good day. Pretty good day. Parallels between Tywin and Joffrey. Let's see. There's many times in which Tyrion looks at his father and thinks that he's kind of like majestic and beautiful, and Joffrey is a very majestic, beautiful boy. Joffrey's more impulsive. He's not a long-term thinker. Tywin is always, he's being draconian. He's thinking about the big plan. I mean, Joffrey's just a little boy, and so he's not going to come up with something like the Red Wedding, or let's sacrifice my son at the Green Fork in order to try to have the Starks overcommit and things like that. I'm trying to think of anything else that would be really like being a parallel between them. Like, do they care? Like, Joffrey is not really that concerned with like Lannister glory. He's concerned with his like own image somewhat. I mean, not even that much. Joffrey's not that, Well, Tywin's very concerned about the family image. Joffrey has a lot more joy in his life. He thinks things are funny. He has, during the Battle of the Blackwater, he's got the Antler Men and things like that. He's much more about, enjoying life in a cruel way. Tywin, I don't know if he ever, besides the sex workers and partaking in sex workers, I don't know how much enjoyment he has of anything, Joffrey was very concerned about his oath of marriage that he'd made. Tywin, doesn't seem to be that concerned, because having extramarital sex and going to sex workers. So I don't know. Is there anything that parallels Tywin and Joffrey? Besides their look, and even then it's not very similar. I can't think of too much. They're very different characters. it's like kind of the only character that ends up like Tywin is Tyrion. You know, she's 9. So there, I don't think Missandei is actually 9. I don't think she's 10. Like, I think if you actually listen to her story about her brother and the number of years and everything like that, it just doesn't fit. Like, she has to be lying about her age. I don't think there's no way you can teach a child that many languages. She can't have this like love for her brothers and know about her brothers and things like that. The timeline doesn't fit on at all. I think she's lying. I think she's a faceless man, or something like that, or stunted in the same way the waif is. I don't think that there's a right, like Missandei, and this is why I think it's a fun little story to have Quentyn seduced by Missandei, is that Missandei filled this role for Dany, of like, Dany is a sucker for little girls. Like, she's a sucker for the innocent children. And Missandei comes in and like appears to be this innocent child. And so when she talks about her like brother dying and things like that, it's just like Dany is a sucker for it. She falls right into it. But, and you can kind of see it, you could kind of have a similar situation with Quentyn, where he doesn't have very good, he's doesn't have very good experience with women. He's awkward around them, and she could definitely seduce him. It does say, let's see, A Storm of Swords, it says she's 10, but she's really, really intelligent, like really, and can write and scheme and all of these things. And it says that she has 3 brothers, and she was born on the island of Nath, and she remembers Mosador teaching her to climb trees, but then they were captured by raiders in the Basilic Isles and sold into slavery as Astapor. And then her brother became an Unsullied, and which takes a long time to train them, right? And then she learned all these languages and became a scribe and a translator. Like, how much time does she have? Okay, say the incident where she's climbing the trees is when she's 5, right? Like, how much, like how many languages are you teaching her in like 5 years of training? You know, she's been trained in the Common Tongue, High Valyrian, Bastard Valyrian, Giscari, reading scrolls, like she's all this literacy. Like, it's just not realistic. And so that's why, plus she knows how to sneak in a room and, like, you know, surprise people. There's definitely some sketch, man. She's totally sketch. Hey Preston, here's $5 to bring Jon Snow back from the dead in the fanfic. Thanks. He's back from the dead in the sense that he's in Ghost. Okay, he's in Ghost. Aren't you happy with Jon being inside Ghost? Why does he need to come? Why is it so important that he comes back in a you know, his old body? Why is that important? Why can't he have a very satisfying second life that was well established with the prologue of A Dance with Dragons? Like, we have this entire prologue of A Dance with Dragons talking about how cool second lives are, right? Why can't we, enjoy that prologue leading to the end result of Jon? Why does it need to go a step further and have him resurrected? I don't know. I think there's a big role for him to play as Ghost in Ghost. I just don't necessarily think that he needs to come back. There's a lot of plot in the North that needs to be. We need to We need to bring it together. We need to bring it down. Bring it down. How do you think Euron's glass candle will affect the story, assuming you believe Euron equals Earthon Nightwalker? Might he be in contact with the others? No, I don't think it's the others. Now, keep in mind that like when George originally created the idea for the glass candles, it was the glass candles that would grant eternal life to people. They were werewoods. They were werewoods in every respect, okay? Because just like a werewood, where you can send dreams to people, and the werewood like gives you eternal life, the glass candle was doing the same thing. You could send dreams to people, and it was granting you eternal life. And so all that was going to be there. And then George scaled that back. The glass candles no longer grant eternal life, but he still had the House of the Undying and things like that. That kind of depository of eternal life. Hive-minded, whatever. I mean, I think there's a question of whether or not Euron knows Quaithe, and if they have some sort of plan on that. I think that you could say that if Euron has a glass candle, that he's the one sending dreams to Aeron from the beginning, and that when Aeron comes up with the idea for a Kingsmoot, that it was really Euron's idea, that he's the one that sent the dream, and that he's the one that visited him. Because it's really, when you look at it, like how convenient it is for Euron, that he's heading home, and then Aeron is like, let's call a Kingsmoot, and it plays right into Euron's hand, and he becomes king by winning the Kingsmoot. Had Aeron not had his epiphany for a Kingsmoot, he would have come out of the water and been like, is it Theon? Is it Asha? Is it Victarion? And he would have just chosen, and everyone would go, okay, yeah, we would, okay, that's good, because everyone, or himself, because actually people wanted him to be king. And they would have just taken it. And they would have been like, oh, Aeron said that Victarion's king. Hooray! And that's it. And then Euron comes in, he's like, but I'm king. No, Victarion. Instead, he came up, he went out into the water, and he received this vision that he should do a Kingsmoot. And it's, it's very convenient. So I think that it makes sense that Euron has a glass candle with him, and that he is Earthon Nightwalker. So I think that that's the big thing, is that he's been sending messages to Aeron, and that the warlock wine and stuff like that can make him go even further, maybe have more powers with the help him with the glass candle and things like that. So that's but I don't know if there's much to do with, can't think about how he would talk to the others or why he would talk to the others. He has no interest in the North. He has no interest in the other invasion, Damn, Preston's mom is cold. Yeah, it's true. She didn't pick up. Schrodinger's Quentyn. Yes, absolutely. Quentyn having a pre-chapter before half his party is killed would have made it much better. It's interesting that Cletus and Will and Kedri, they die in such a weird fashion. It's really, really odd, and it's so melodramatic. He's Cletus is dying and he's like, give the dragon queen a kiss for me, and you're like, what? Like, are you staging your own death or something? It's so over the top, but I guess it happened. Oh, do you think the fan theories, including yours, are better, more satisfying than anything George R. R. Martin would choose to write, and fans are in for a disappointment? Yeah, I mean, I think that's a very good question, and I think you are right. Um, it's when the problem is you just have more brains and more time, and of course, like more brains are going to be able to come up with like better ideas. Like that's just the way things go. It's and because like there's so many people and so much time to like to brainstorm it through and such, you're going to come up with like better ideas than just one guy. And that's the thing is, even for TV shows, these are like writers' rooms where they're throwing ideas off each other, and somebody can shoot down something that's really bad. It's interesting thing with writers, like just being an island, there's no one to tell you, no, that's a bad idea. No, don't do that. That's silly. Don't do that. Because we all have really bad ideas. Like, come on, like we all come up with bad ideas, and that's what the great thing about collaborative work is, that somebody is there to be like, no, that's like, go back, think that through again. Okay. This is why I think Carmine and I were talking about this on a podcast with, about like, I think he loves The Departed, but I think The Departed has a lot of problems. And I'm always like, I feel like had they just, no one is going to walk up to Scorsese and be like, dude, no, like go back and rework this, no one did it to George Lucas on the prequels and things like this. So yeah, of course fans are up for a disappointment, but I think they're already going to be disappointed by the lack of book. That's that's never going to come out. So we're going to do our best with the fanfic, and that's it. Oh, econ policy analysis of A Song of Ice and Fire. When I love applying my learnings, my first year macroeconomics class when Preston talks economics in the streams. The problem is that George doesn't study econ, and so when he talks about economics, it's not really, very accurate. You're not quite sure what statement he's making. Like he's, about stuff, about the nature of debt and things like that. Or like paper money. Like he seems like, obviously with like the Iron Bank of Bravos, right? The Iron Bank of Bravos is a perfect example of something where like, okay, say a country is massively in debt to another country, or massively in debt to a bank. Who has power over whom? Like why is the mass, this isn't like your community loan shark who is going out and like breaking your legs or something. In the real world and in real history, there's never really been a case where a bank or pushed somebody around and forced them to change their policies. Like, I mean, today people make the argument about like the IMF and stuff like that, oh, it's forcing these countries to make reforms. But it's like they agreed to do that like while they were taking out the loans. Like it's not that they were in debt and then somebody came back later and extorted them for more. Or they got into something that, they couldn't handle. You could even argue the other way that the bank is at the mercy of the country, because they're like, oh fuck, like we've got to just deal with it because they're never going to pay us back anything, things like that. So you mean, like the Iron Bank of Bravos, like there's no real, like there are these banks that existed, these money lending like cities and such, but they never really had any power or control over people, over kings or or things like that. Or you feel like George is saying something with him writing all of these notes promising gold in Casterly Rock, but what is he actually saying? It's a little shaky. Oh, Aussie here. The candidate running against the incumbent was horrible and had charisma of a brick. Oh, interesting. Do you think studying A Song of Ice and Fire so closely writing the fanfic has influenced your personal writing style, such as The Dreams of Ghosts and Indians? Definitely. Definitely. I would say that my writing definitely, I mean, the like if you read Ghosts and Indians, there's a lot of I think before I started reading George R. R. Martin, I wouldn't have put so much detail and into thinking about like themes and objects coming back. Like there's a lot. I spent a lot of time in Ghosts and Indians making like, okay, there's a reference in chapter 1 that comes back in chapter 8. There's a there's a reference in chapter 7. There's a chapter in chapter 6. Like, so in chapter 1, you're finding bits of the rest of the chapters. And every chapter, you're finding bits of the rest of the chapters. I spent a lot of time doing that and thinking about it and making it organic. I thought a lot about, I don't know, there's definitely like word use and things like that I use. How George flows his sentences, how he goes out of his way to begin each sentence differently. Like he's not the type to write Harry did this, Harry did that, Harry did that, starting every sentence with Harry. He would start every sentence differently and try to transition it from the previous sentence. And there's a lot of time that that now I think about. I think about that when I write. George is really good at that. And it's weird, like going, cause I started, I'm about halfway through, The Way of Kings. And it's not that Brandon Sanderson is a bad writer. He's not, he's got, but it's just very different. It's just very clunky. And you're like, oh, okay. Like I'm understanding why people really like George R. R. Martin and like, why George R. R. Martin is a really good writer. It's one of these things. I mean, I've learned about the concept before, but there's something called, if you're writing, and this is called known subject. And a lot of people don't think about it, but when we speak, and this is why, like, if you write something and you read it aloud, it really helps, because we rarely, when we speak, bring up subjects that were not already established. I don't say like, I went to the store, the beach was calm. Like you'd be like, where did the beach come from? So you'd say, oh, I went to the store was beside the beach was calm, and then it all flows, right? So it's something about known subject. But I went to the store, I'm introducing a store, and that's new, but that's not awkward. But it's only when you begin sentences with something new that it's striking, right? Like, huh? I went to the store. The beach was calm. Like, where did the beach come from? Well, that beach was introduced just as fast as the store. But it's this principle of the known subject. It's why passive voice is really useful, and why when somebody's like an anti-passive voice Nazi, it actually like screws up their writing, because they're putting everything in active voice and they're forgetting about the known subject. But real quick here, I'll bring up because I've got right here. I've got right here The Merchant's Man. Okay. So you can read this real quick, and you can go, okay. Adventure stank. Of course, adventure is the ship. So she boasted 60 oars. So we've established a ship, and now we're talking about the ship. She boasted 60 oars, a single sail, a long lean hull that promised speed. Small, we're still talking about the ship, but she might serve. Quentyn thought as he saw her. And got a good whiff of her. Now we're establishing smelling. Pigs was his first thought. Oh, what's the smell? The smell is pigs. After a second sniff, he changed his mind. Pigs had a cleaner smell. We've already established pigs. The stink, we're talking about the smell here, was piss and rotting meat and night soil and corpse flesh, right? Like every sentence is an established thing and usually the previous sentence. And so when you read, it all flows. It all flows. I want to retch, he said to Garrus, drink water. Well, now we're introducing Garrus. They were waiting for the ship's master to appear. They together. Now we've established Garrus. Like everything, every beginning is a known subject. So it all flows. You know, like here's a little bit, this is a little bit of it, but Quentyn was about to suggest they try another ship when the master finally made his appearance with two vile-looking crewmen by his side. Garrus greeted him with a smile. Here, I mean, Garrus was established 2 sentences before, but it's, you know, but in the him is the master, you know, though he did not speak Volantine tongue as well as Quentyn, their ruse required he speak for them. So, you know, now we're talking about Garrus because he was, you know, established here. So it's like, I think about that a lot now. And it's I think it makes for very good writing if you really think about flowing each sentence into the next through a known subject. But yeah, I do a lot of, and I think, you know, previously, and I think when I read a lot of books, people are just kind of writing and they're writing to fill pages. But like when you start thinking, like when you start using the standard of like, why does this sentence exist? And is there a point to this sentence, or am I just writing and filling a page? And once you also start saying like, can the sentence justify its existence? Like, does it have value? That changes writing quite a bit. It gets into this whole like idea of, you know, I wrote an 8-page letter. If I had more time, it would be 1, you know, like shrinking things down, being like, why did I say this? Like, what was the point? It makes it really hard. It makes things long. It makes it really exhausting to flow everything into each other. And then to be like, why does this sentence exist? Can it be cut? Why would anyone want to read this sentence? You know, when you make these standards, it's one of these things where like, why I'm like super critical of like Tyrion 7. Like, why does this chapter exist? But I think it's definitely changed my writing a bit. It's strange. I think I'm getting okay at writing, but it's like I'm way old in life now. It's like way past the point. Way past the point where it's useful. I mean, I still write for work and stuff like that, and the fanfic and stuff like that. Trump initiating the Chinese century through insanity is beautiful. It is kind of interesting. I mean, everybody else is going to be trading with each other, and we're going to be all screwed. Joff would have grown to be a great king. I don't know if George would have established that. George is, you know, very into writing people like, oh, this was like, it was in their nature. They're crazy to begin with. Yeah. Not an American Pope, a Chicagoan Pope. That's funny. Chicago Peruvian Pope. She looks 9. That's still not great. No, I think, you know, I think he's going to mention that like he sees different lines on her face so that he starts seeing her as old or something. Maybe he'll have some cope. But it's also supposed, I mean, this is Ice and Fire. You're also supposed to be uncomfortable about, you know, about the whole thing. There's a weird Star Trek episode where Picard Guinan, Keiko, and Ensign Rowe get in a transport accident, and they all like become children, but with their adult brains. And I remember somebody asking, like, what's really weird is what if they never transformed back? Like Keiko is still married to Miles O'Brien. Like, what do they do? Like, that's just like. And I was just like, go on with life. I mean, she's still an adult in her brain. The exact reverse of the Green Lantern. I don't know if you remember in Green Lantern, not the movie, but in the comic book, Green Lantern hangs out with like a little girl. But then they thought it was really weird that he hang out with a little girl, so they just aged her up. Like, and I don't mean like age her up in a sitcom sense. Like they never explain like how she suddenly goes from a kid to being adult. No, they have like magic make her into an adult, but she still has the brain of a child. And then Green Lantern gets in a romance with her, and it's like, no, that's gross. She's still a child. But Missandei would be the reverse, right? She's actually an adult, so there's nothing wrong with it, Missandei was a nap at 10. She cried salt tears because there's no more languages to master. Can we get a John and Benjen point of view through Ghost? The idea is that the epilogue is going to be Ghost. And so that's going to be like John is in there living his second life as Ghost, and that's what we're going to explore. But Ghost is going to have some events happen between running north of the wall after the incident, and then so he's gonna have some stuff. Now for Benjen, I have not figured out how to bring Benjen back into the story. I would like to bring Benjen and Stone Snake back in somehow. I just don't know how. I figure, they might as well be together, but I can't figure out like yet how to bring him in. And one of the major problems is that like there's not like, even though there's a million point of views on the north, like they're not that near anything. They're not that close to Castle Black. They're not that close to Bran. I don't know. I'll have to figure out what they were doing. But I would like to bring Benjen and Stone Snake back at some point. Parallel to time-traveling Bran reaching out to Jon, Ghost, and Euron, wanting Euron to pray to him. Maybe there is a son of time-traveling Euron, but Euron is an agent of the Great Darkness. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if like we talked about this last week. I can't see two time travelers really working out. Because how would the other time traveler know that the timeline was changed and stuff like that? I mean, I think in the fanfic so far that we kind of established in the Harrower chapter that we find out that Aeron's goal is to try to create like a new House of the Undying, a new hive mind where everyone kind of joins him and they all live forever. That he's seeking eternal life on Earth, because the idea is that he doesn't believe in religion, he doesn't believe in God, he doesn't believe in the afterlife. So how does he achieve eternal life? Well, he creates eternal life on Earth by creating a new House of the Undying. And he thinks it's useful to bind telepaths and things like that, which is why like he is trying to use Euron and stuff like that. But so he'll be try, I guess, and so it's like, what could Euron seek out? I guess at the Citadel, maybe he'd be looking for more glass candles, to help him or something, to help him in this quest. But But yeah, I always thought the Euron wanting Aeron to pray to him would be to like create the telepathic bond between them and then have them be networked. Because it's kind of what the House of the Undying wanted with Dany, right? They wanted her to join them. And so it's like Euron is coming kind of wanting Aeron to join him, right? I mean, even if we step back and say like, I know this sounds like really weird and spacey, but this is very George R. R. Martin, right? Like, if we're talking about a song for Leah, the Grishka is the House of the Undying. It is a hive-minded like thing, and they want other people to join, to create a larger telepathic hive mind. And, you know, Euron is sitting there wanting Aeron to pray to him. He wants Aeron to make him into a god of some sort. He wants to be a god and have Aeron join him and pray to him. So, I mean, it's similar situation, right? Like, you've got a god character wanting people to have like a telepathic connection with it, which is the same. It's the same as Bran joining the Werewood and all of this. It's all the Grishka again. It's all like how George wrote about religion, that people that are praying are telepathically trying to talk to God and trying to connect with them. And then they will all be connected telepathically, living together in the afterlife, you know. That Euron is just trying to create the same thing on Earth. Yeah, the biggest flaw with fan theories is that 10,000 people, tens of thousands of people are hyper-analyzing things George R. R. Martin alone could never have possibly considered. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. There's just there's too many. I mean, George is a genius. He's really, really smart. And I'm amazed at his work, but at the same time, like when we overanalyze it, you know, we find all these errors. We find all these errors like all the time. You know, I find clumsy paragraphs here and there, things that don't make sense, mistakes. You know, I'm very impressed that a lot of the things do come back and that he does put so much time and effort into it. Absolutely. But he's still one man. He's still one man. And he still makes mistakes because he's a human being. So yeah, it's yeah, sorry. Yeah, we're never going to have all of the crazy, wonderful theories and stuff come true. Which is too bad. Big question. Existentially speaking, how do you feel about dedicating so much of your time to fiction of another author? Do you see it as a guilty pleasure or just something fun to do? And I mean, it's very fun. I mean, I think that, I mean, existentially, like what is my like death or legacy? Look, like my death or legacy is going to be my children and things like that, or like my own, you know, I have my own book, but I don't think it's some huge thing, but your death and legacy, I mean, is my own children. So it's like, I'm not so worried about, the impact I make on Earth or something like that with regards to that kind of thing. This is just kind of fun. I mean, some people like cooking, right? But do you think like, you know, learning how to make a really good lasagna is like, you know, existentially speaking, is like that great? No, it's just you make a good lasagna and it's fun and you enjoy it, you know? And I really do enjoy the fanfic and that kind of writing. It's all temporary. It's all just fun. So I don't think it's anything that goes on. I don't think it's a guilty pleasure. I don't feel guilty about anything with regards to the fanfic or dedicating time to another author. It's just, this is really fun. Like, you know, we all sit there and talk about the minutia of Star Wars all the time. Like, oh, why didn't they put a grate over the exhaust port and things like that? That kind of stuff's fun. It's fun to do this with Ice and Fire, and especially when the show comes out and things like that. So I don't know. I don't think it's a. I don't feel bad about it. It's all really great. I hate stealing since dragon chooses. Dragons are princesses locked away. The Frog Prince freed Viserion and they marry. Mirrors Viserys Arion. Yes. So, I mean, I see what you're saying. I don't think he's really. So what I had planned, and I'm, spoiling things for people, but like what I had planned was that Quentyn, so all of this time was spent in a lot of the chapters talking about the Demon Road. And even though it's going to be really slow, it just seems like a lot of, after the disappearance of Dany and the war and things like that, there should be a lot of refugees leaving Meereen, just fleeing. Just because it's a really tumultuous time and we don't know what's going to happen and things like that. But there should be all these refugees just taken off. And so I see like Quentyn also fleeing with these refugees. And they're not fleeing by sea. They're all fleeing by land over down the Demon Road. And then he somehow becomes their like leader, as they escape. And that Viserion, for some reason, is following them. Which also like, the Demon Road is supposed to be super dangerous, but like no one's going to attack Quentyn because there's this dragon just following him the whole time, circling overhead and like sleeping near him at night. And like all of a sudden this dragon is like, and then maybe, we talk about, him trying to ride the dragon a second time or something like that. Or, but this is this idea. Yeah. The Viserion does choose him and then like is like following him. And so, we have him head down the Demon Road to Mantaris and something like that. But that's the plan. And so, yeah, that this he would have Viserion, and then Victarion would have Rhaegal. And I think Victarion will probably, the next chapter with Victarion will be in the Summer Isles. But yes, I have all these little plans. Let's see here. Death the first 5,000 years. Ooh, big Dunk and Egg trailer this week. What I want to see in the trailer, okay. I want to see puppets. Number one, puppets. I want to see fucking puppets. They'll probably show the final. They'll probably show the final trial by 7 or something going on, or they'll probably show some jousting from the first few days of the Astrid tourney. I'm trying to think. They'll probably show maybe a split second of like Dunk having a fist fight with Aerion. Because, right, it's a trailer, so they're going to try to show action, right? So this is what I'm guessing. It's going to be like jousting, hedge knight, then it's going to be like puppets, and then it's going to be like fist fight, rah, and then it's going to be like the final battle, and then it's going to be Duncan, the Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. I'm just picking all of the excitement of the story. Right? Like that's gotta be, but I'm putting out Dunk is coming. I've been working on Dunk is Coming too. part two of my reading, and it ended up being really long. It's like 30 minutes, so but it should be out this week. But yeah, I'm having a really great time, like going through and doing the detailed analysis of of the Hedge Knight, because going through it, it's amazing, like how of the time the story is, like how it's so beginning of Clash of Kings. Like there's so many things where you're like, this is the beginning of Clash of Kings. Like George is writing this at the beginning of a Clash of Kings and all of the connections. Like it's quite funny, amazing, but yeah. Okay, Quentyn would be a lot prettier if he'd smile more. It's true. You could always use your writing skill for the fanfic. Hypothetically, of course. Yes, of course. Of course. Yeah. I mean, what's nice about the fanfic, I mean, like, you you put in some, you put in some ideas and you put in some writing and you help craft stuff, and people really enjoy it, and they get a lot of happiness out of it. So uh, 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 uh. No more John chapters, only Ghost chapters. Well, at least the epilogue. I don't know if there's going to be any other John chapters, because we've got the other POVs. We got plenty of POVs. Like Mel is at Castle Black. Davos is going to be at Eastwatch. Bran is north of the Wall, and we have Asha and Theon. So it's like we don't need John as a POV. Sour Billy quoting the dreams of ghosts and Indians. What kind of god needs men to carry them? Don't they all? Yes, yes. Sour Billy got to Japan. Um, do you think the show implies that Lannisters will put family first in the books, as both Jaime and Tyrion come back protecting Cersei and each other? Um, I mean, I don't know if it's like my own like headcanon that Jaime and Cersei made a promise to each other to always be together, and that's why Jaime, like in the end, goes back and helps Cersei. Like that's my headcanon. Um, but I'm trying to think of anybody. It's so weird because like Tyrion says at the beginning of the story, like I never bet against my family, but he's not exactly pro Lannister at that point. I mean, he does his Blackwater shit, but after that, he's just he's he's not that big of a fan. He doesn't do anything to protect Joffrey. He doesn't care about Joffrey's death. He hates his sister. He wants to kill his sister now. He hates Jaime. He wants to kill Jaime now. I don't know if there's any family love left in Tyrion. And Jaime maybe, but what's funny about Jaime is he never really had that family love to begin with. So like, or Cersei, she didn't have it either. So, maybe Jaime could have that. But I think Jaime likes Cersei because he likes Cersei for who she is, and he likes Tyrion for who he is. I don't know. Does Jaime want to protect his family in any other respect? Did he really care about Lancel? He's fine with Lancel, but did he do anything to really like help him? Anything like that? Yeah, I mean it's strange. Like besides Tywin, is he the only one that really cares about the family? I mean, is anybody else? Does anyone else care about the family? And the legacy of the family, protecting people in the family. All the characters kind of seem pretty selfish. I don't know. Um, But yeah, they do in the show. It's funny because you're right. In the show, Tyrion does come back, and all of a sudden he's totally cool with Cersei, and they have their little screaming match, and it's all fine. So I don't know. I mean, we're never going to get to that point, but I don't even know if I'm going to. You know, so I don't want to spoil too much of what I planned for Tyrion and Jaime and everything. But oh, sun spear, a literal spear killing a sun as a sigil makes me think that the Martells work to bring winter. Maybe in winter, Dorne gets rain and is fertile. That's interesting. I mean, it's, as I say, like, you know, in those Dorne chapters, it's very, you know, they talk about drying up wells and things like that. And it does seem like the world's moved on for, you know, for Dorne, and that if things were to going to be cooled down, like Dorne would do better, right? Like um if everything north was winter, and Dorne would at least get to, you know, something cooler. Um you know, I'm kind of with you on that thematically. I don't know about, you know, is there any evidence that they know about the others or anything north of the wall or something like that? You know, has he figured it out? Like even with glass candles and all of that, you know, does he know about it? Does he figure it out? Like, I think, you know, when I did Dornish Master Plan, definitely you start like looking at the pieces of everything, and you say, okay, well, if he went to Crogain, he would see like the sad, destroyed Rhoynish civilization. And then you look at Dorne, and it's this dying land, and it just seems like the Dornish are dying. And that you'd want some sort of restoration, some rebirth of some sort. And that'd be a big focus. But like, there's nothing, there's literally nothing about North of the Wall stuff. Like, there's nothing in there about North of the Wall stuff. You know, like, there's stuff about Lannisters, there's stuff about Rhaegar, there's stuff about Targaryens, there's stuff about so much in there in the Dornish story, Tyrashi and Bravos, but literally not a single thing about the Wall, Lord Commanders, the others, any of that kind of talk. So, I mean, yes, you know, spear killing the sun is interesting and all, but you know, I would need some mention of what's happening north of the wall for that, some little thing, or maybe, you know, maybe their actions, you know, are killing the sun and they don't realize it. Oh, your channel's legacy. I'll remember what you said when you're gone. Well, thank you. Chad Summerchild save the last few seasons of the show. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna put Mantaris in the fanfic, but I mean, I don't, you know, would George do the same? Would George have somebody go down the demon road? I mean, he mentions the demon road a lot, in the story, but he might just be establishing geography. Like, he mentions Old Gis a lot, and you're like, do I think anybody's going to Old Gis? I don't know. You know, like, it's just, it's almost like George is writing the map himself. When you read the Merchant's Man chapter, it's a ridiculous chapter because, like, I mean, really briefly, like, you start out talking about this ship, and they're talking about the fucking ship forever, right? And who Garrus and Quentyn are, and the ship. This ship thing goes on for a while. Fucking ship. The ship. And then you get into, like, the city, what Volantis looks like. and that they've been hanging in Volantis. Okay. And then he's like, oh, how are we going to get to Slaver's Bay? Oh, well, we could take the Demon Road. Oh, we could go to Old Gis. Oh, and then all of a sudden you're doing geography. And then you're talking more about um, the geography of Volantis and like what the city looks like. And then you do the flashback of Cletus and Will dying. And then they're back to talking about how they're going to get there. Oh, New Gis is an island. Old, okay, that'll get us closer. But then they're arguing about how they're going to do it, and then some backstory on the Demon Road. They're talking about the Demon Road here for a while, and then he thinks about the Drinkwater twins. And then they do more geography, walking around the city, and then you get back to more geography, Fishmonger Square, and then finally you get them saying, "Hey, oh yeah," they run into the dwarfs. Yeah, they run into Penny, which I do wonder if maybe George went back and popped her in. I wonder if he came up with Penny this early, because this is really early when he pops in Penny. If it's 2016 or 2006, and then they get to the merchant's house, and then they go, oh, they talk about Cletus and Will some more, and they're like, hey, and then they meet Arch for fucking 2 seconds, and then you're done. What a sad chapter. Will the Iron Throne become constitutional monarchy at the end of the series, a Westerosi Magna Carta? I kind of think that, look, what we saw in the show was probably what George originally had planned. I mean, you at least you don't go full wish fulfillment, but you have one step in the right direction, which is what they did. They had the elected king, but he still rules for life. That's no good, but constitutional monarchy, I don't know. Maybe they would have a small council, and they decide that every few years they should have a small council or something like that, rather than just having one king rule his whole life or something. The story that's most similar in this respect is George's story Windhaven, where they have a great council at the end that restructures their whole society. And so it's not that, he hasn't done something like that before. Windhaven's a pretty good book. I think you should all read Windhaven sometime. I mean, it's got Sorella Sand in it and the Eyrie. But at the very end, do they have another great? They have the Great Council. Well, part because it started in one story, but they have the Great Council at the end, where they go from hereditary passing on of the wings to meritocracy, and then I think they show her in her death, dying, right? Menace leads to balance her identity in the community to stay. Evan chooses to return to teach young flyers at the academy. Epilogue. Dying Maris receives a singer at her bedside. She recites to the singing words of the song written by her brother Call, who had died years before. The song is the last testament to Maris. It's kind of a sad epilogue that's similar to Fever Dream, where the character is like dying and you're happy for all the work she did and things like that. So I mean they might have some sort of great council, but I mean rather than just being elected king, maybe they would have the great council meet a bunch of times. But I think the show probably showed what was pretty close to what George had planned. No dragon puppet, we riot. That is true. We want giant puppets. I want, first of all, is Tansel Too-Tall's actress picked yet? That's what I want. I want to see. Oh, it is. She is, Pat. She is. Tanzine Crawford. Oh, how tall are you? She better be tall. Oh, nice. Okay. Hold on. I'm going to get this picture of Tanzine Crawford. Okay. Huh. Oh, she's not that tall. She's not that tall, people. Here's her at some event here. Look, she's the tallest one. I think she's in the green. She's the tallest one. But she doesn't seem that tall. Right? Here she is over here. See, in this Disney FYY, this woman over on the right seems taller. I mean, she's tall. She's like, 5'9", 5'10". Is that my big complaint? Tansel too tall isn't tall enough. Well, Dunk isn't even that tall in the show, right? The actors, not like they're having a Dunk that's tall. Yeah. Yeah. You want to see fucking puppets. I want to, not puppets fucking. Okay. Yeah, I want to see the complex marionette show. That'll be interesting. They got to do something. Oh, yeah. Are we going to say, is the dagger really going to show up? See, I don't actually think that Arian Brightflame will have the dagger. But I do think that if the dagger shows up, I might fucking lose it, man. If the dagger shows up in Dunk and Egg, I might lose it. Because it's got to be, I mean, considering this happens between, like, the dagger, what happens to the dagger? If it's getting passed down, the dagger is... where are we going to see the dagger? Vic teams up with Jalbar Zoe, make it happen. I think we're definitely going to talk about the Summer Islands, like, politics when Vic shows up. There's a lot of stuff that might show up in the Vic chapter. Okay, there's we have to talk about the Victorian chapter. First of all, I think a few characters might be captured by Victorian, and one of those characters, it might, maybe Drink, maybe Barristan. Are we going to run into, Garyon Lannister? Or are we going to run, who are we going to run into in the Summer Isles? There's a lot of opportunities. And then we got the politics of the Summer Isles and, like, what exactly Jalbar, like, who exactly was going to team up with Jalbar Zoe, like, what he was trying to do. We need to solve that, deal with that. But most importantly, it's just Victorian has the dragon, and he's taking a break in the Summer Isles. But But yeah, man, the fucking dagger. Is the dagger coming back? What do you think the odds of the dagger coming back up are? Like 25%, is 50%, 75%? Is the dagger happening in Dunk and Egg? Sorry he's dead, Jim. PS puppets? Why? We'll see about these puppets, man. There's got to be puppets. Like, you can't have the Hedge Knight without the fucking puppets. The puppets, like, thematically, they mean a lot. Even though I don't think George knew who the puppet master was when he wrote the story, he definitely writes it like there's a fucking puppet master. You just don't know who the puppet master is, and it's tough to say because, like, I mentioned this in the video coming out this week, but because, like, the glass candles are dark at this point, and Bloodraven was not a character yet. So, like, even though, yes, retroactively Bloodraven is completely alive during this period of time, he's in the next story. He's in the Sworn Sword, but, like, the when he wrote the Hedge Knight, he hadn't come up with Bloodraven Bittersteel. He hadn't taken that from Michael Moorcock yet. So, you know, who is the? Does he think the Three-Eyed Crow is still alive? Like, goes back that far? Time traveling Bran? Yeah, is Dunk lying about being a knight? Dunk is 10,000% lying about being a knight. Nothing in the story makes sense, like, on a very small individual level to a large thematic level, if Dunk is a knight. Dunk is absolutely 100%, 1000% lying about being a knight. Everything in the story points to Dunk not being a knight. And it's very, very important that Dunk is not a knight. But it's just also, like, every scene is funny, right? Like Dunk arriving at the inn and being like, "I'm a knight, you know," and Egg being like, "You don't look like a knight." And he's like, "Do all knights look the same?" And he's like, "No, but they don't look like you." You know, like, those are really funny lines because fucking Egg is an expert on knights, okay? He knows what a fucking knight looks like. And Dunk is sitting there being an asshole, being like, "I'm a knight, you know." He's like, "Okay, dude, you don't look like a knight." Like, 10,000% Dunk is lying about being a knight. There is 0% chance that he is a knight. There's just so much that wouldn't make sense in the story if he were a knight. But wait, Tyrion bet against Jaime to lose the dagger, except he didn't. He never bets against Jaime to lose the dagger. That was the lie of Littlefinger. Okay. What are your take on the Dragon Riders of Pern series and the parallels with theories of A Song of Ice and Fire being sci-fi post-apocalyptic interregnum? I mean, I haven't read Pern, but, like, it was not uncommon for all of that, like, to be like I said, there's Thundar the Barbarian. There was, as I say, this Dragon Riders of Pern is probably, you know, sci-fi post-apocalyptic. Every story that George wrote before was sci-fi post-apocalyptic interregnum. But I'm trying to remember. I mean, let me quickly read up on the Dragon Riders of Pern. It's funny as my brother had all the Dragon Riders of Pern stories, and I never. Okay. 1967. First woman to win a nebula. So George has definitely read Pern. Humans have colonized the planet of Pern on the Rukbat star system, but have lost their technology and history, including the origins of Earth, due to periodic onslaught of Thread, a microzoid spore that voraciously consumes all organic material, including humans and their crops, given the opportunity. Thread comes from a red star, actually another planet. The red star has a 250 turn per year elliptical orbit, and the orbit brings it close enough, thread rains down on Pern at predictable intervals over 50 turns. Oh my God. This is like straight up George. I mean, planetary turns and like, I mean, it might as well be a seed ship raining that down. The Pyrenees use intelligent fire-breathing dragons to fight the thread. And the human riders have a telepathic bond with the dragons formed by oh my God, this is, it creates a long lifetime relationship. The dragon almost invariably commits suicide at the rider's death. Genetic modification of the animals to carry human flight. Oh my God, it's exactly the same. The Pyrenees live in a pre-industrial society with lords, harpers. They occasionally get telegraphs. This is exactly the same. Well then. 24 fucking Dragon Riders of Pern novels? Jesus fucking Christ. Man. All right. So yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's the same fucking story. You're right. Everything is fucking taken. Everything is taken from Dragon Riders of Pern. Man. That's ridiculous. I mean, it's amazing to think like, because even if you're not even taking like dragons in medieval fantasy, just the idea that like, just even the simple plot of humans colonized a planet and then they lost the technology and their memory that they even came from Earth. I mean, just that is Windhaven. Like, you know, it's like this, just that part is Windhaven. All this interregnum. I mean, it's just that maybe it's just like everyone was writing the same kind of thing at the time. It's funny because it was like these ideas were so common, and yet, I mean, this is ironic, right? These are these stories about human society forgetting its past, and here we are in the 2020s, and we've forgotten what like sci-fi and fantasy writers were writing in the 60s and 70s. Like, you know, like, oh my God. Nuke Marina. Yeah, you're onto it. Okay. Almost to the end. This is 90% the dagger's coming back. 100%, sadly, I think. Damn it. Oh. Hey, Preston, finished streams of Ghost of Indians. I hope you have a stream discussing it sometime. Once some time has passed. Lots of stuff to dissect. Great first novel. Very satisfying read. Thank you. Yeah, you know, yeah, it's just that I did, you know, it's like I do want to talk about it. There's a lot to talk about where I can talk, you know, go into everything. But yeah, it's like, you know, not enough people have like got it yet. Not enough people have finished it yet that I want to talk about it and like spoil the whole thing, you know. But eventually I will sit down and like talk about Ghosts and Indians in detail, because there's a lot to talk about with regards to like what I wrote, what I my own life and things like inspiration, stuff like that. I was more disappointed by how white the Baelor Breakspear actor is. Oh man, I've got to check this out. I haven't looked at too many. I mean, I know about Dunk and Egg actors, but I didn't check out all the different actors. Okay. Okay. Somebody posted this. And it's like, okay, there's Tansel, too tall in the middle. And hello.
I have to interject here on Dirty Dancer. Fuck off, because we did discuss it with Trey. Did you forget? Maybe we discussed it privately.
What's this?
Trey, he's complaining on how white the move the thing to the side. I can't. Yeah, this is exactly what me and Trey discussed with you about. People were attacking Trey because he was saying Baelor being what doesn't really matter, but people were losing their minds because in the series Baelor is like Dornish. So
right. Well, people are kind of I think now it's coming back to me because it's like people forget that actually in the books, like the Dornish are quite ethnically diverse.
I should get Trey in here because first off, Dirty Dancer, go fuck yourself. Don't even start that. I hate when people bitch about...
Carmine is saying that with a laugh. He's not actually saying go fuck yourself.
No, I'm actually saying that. It's like if you super chat, maybe I would be nicer, but maybe I would be nicer.
All right. Look, so there's Dunk, there's Egg. Is this third guy Baelor? Who do you remember them all?
Which actor is playing which? No, I don't know. But who cares? Who fucking cares?
Okay. All right. Here's the funny thing about it, because now I'm remembering this because I wouldn't have brought this up before, but like when people say like Spanish looking, it's always kind of funny because like having I did my study abroad in Spain and I did it in Barcelona, and it's like there's so many very blonde Spanish people, and it's true that like southern Spain they tend to get some darker hair, but like the Spanish are all over the map when it comes to how they look. And then like people kind of admit that like Dorne is kind of based on Spain, and like in the book they specifically talk about how there's salty Dornish and stony Dornish and sandy Dornish, and how the Dornish are diverse too. And then somehow it all got translated into the show that they all have to have black hair and tan skin. Yeah, they all have to.
The person says the fifth one, so I'm assuming like right under the under Egg.
This guy, right under Egg.
Maybe I don't. My problem is who fucking cares? You don't remember this, but several streams back, we were talking about our favorite shows, or no, we were talking about someone's list of like. No, you were talking about your favorite shows of a year, and someone had the audacity to go, "Huh." This list is definitely a list a cis white male would make. Like, who fucking cares? Please leave. Stop. Just stop. Take that shit over to Hassan's stream. Like, get the fuck out of here with that bullshit.
Well, it's not that I don't admit that, like, it is very true that, like, that audiences do trend towards watching things that involve people that look like them. That's just a given fact. Like that's just what people do, which is why they try to make diverse casts, not because they're woke, but because they want to capture as many viewers as possible. They want people to be like, oh, this is a show for me because there's a person that looks like me in the show.
Then allow the casting director to make that decision. But when the audience wants to bitch and complain, when the character isn't even like that dark skin in the source, come on, stop.
Right. I mean, I almost think that it should just be done randomly. Like, roll a dice. There you go. Like I say, I don't care if Tansel too tall is she's more African American. She's Dornish too, but it doesn't matter to me. Like I say, like had they done Game of Thrones and the Starks were all African American, would have been fine. That would have been fine with me. It would have been fine. I don't care.
For me, it goes both ways. If the entire cast is black, I'm fine with it. If the entire cast is white, I'm fine with it. If it's all Asian, I'm fine with it. Just stop. I just want the audience to quit fucking bitching about it. Let the casting directors do their job.
Reaching that point where like now we've been over this argument so many times, and it's like, look, like when George Lucas talked about this quite a bit, like when he chose Lando Calrissian, like people were complaining to him that Star Wars didn't have any minorities, and he agreed. He's just like, fuck, you're right. Star Wars doesn't have any minorities. We're gonna put Lando in.
So we're gonna introduce the black guy to be the space pimp.
Yeah.
Who betrays the.
But then all of a sudden everybody gave him shit, like, oh, why do you have to make him like, what? This seems so awkward that we're having like this weird space pimp in the middle of the middle of Star Wars. This doesn't fit at all. And then time goes on, and honestly, like, Lando feels as natural to Star Wars as any fucking thing else, right? Because it's been so long. And now black people feel like a normal thing in Star Wars. We like, it's now fine. And so it's the same thing now, like I think people made some big deal about Valarians and House of the Dragon, but I think now, like, it just doesn't matter. Like, it's once now we can finally move on and just start talking about the story. Yeah.
Someday.
Yeah. I think it looks fun.
Oh no, the casting looks great. It's just me and Trey were talking to you about this. Like, people were getting on Trey's case, trying to attack him because like he thought the casting looked fine, and he wasn't upset that there weren't a diverse cast. Who cares? As long as the show's good, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah,
the entire cast of
my
House of the Dragon.
My complaint was Tassel too tall was not tall enough, but she's fine.
Dunk is not that tall. He's supposed to be super tall.
Well, I don't think Dunk is that tall. So they've already kind of like gone away from it. So it's fine. Like Dunk being super tall is not that important to the story. It's a little bit. It's not that important. You can get by on it.
And the dagger is coming back. I just want you to know that.
You think it's like
if the dagger comes back, you said you'd be upset. I would be upset if it doesn't.
No, I will laugh my ass off. You know that when the dagger shows up on screen, I am going to jump up and scream and text you and be like, the fucking dagger.
There's a buddy of mine who, a family member of his, works on the set, and according to him, the guy hasn't seen the dagger yet. Doesn't mean it's not there.
Yeah,
I'm hoping it's there. It's the one thing that connects us to everything together. It needs to be there. I would be upset if it's not there.
Yeah. So you're gonna be upset if it's not there because first of all, when we first brought up the dagger, we thought how stupid it would be that the dagger is there. And then it's such a stupid idea that it's something
it has to be there.
Absolutely do.
It has to be there. Absolutely. The dagger needs to be there. This is my meme. This is my one-armed man. I need the dagger there. I need the dagger in every show. The Nymeria spinoff, it has to show up somehow. She brings it to Westeros. There it is.
But it's sort of it's kind of like, I mean, maybe the dagger is going to be like Jar Jar, where, right, you threw it in, it was really silly. But then when Jar Jar like is not in the sequels, you're kind of like, well, dude, you removed him because we all fucking laughed at him. Like, that was pretty obvious. And now it's really weird that he's not in the sequels very much. I mean, I understand that Jar Jar has like one scene in Attack of the Clones and then has like cameo in Revenge of the Sith. I'm well aware of that. But he's not he's a major fucking character in the first movie, and then he's just dropped, right? It's a little inconsistent. No other character does that. You don't just have, well, I mean, in the sequel series, they did the same thing to Rose. But like, you don't have, Han Solo suddenly disappear from the fucking story.
Homie, Rose sucked. Like, I'm sorry, but Rose is fucking...
but it's still weird that she's not a character all of a sudden. When she had such a big role, then all of a sudden she's not.
Whatever.
In Melisandre's chapters, when she's explaining how to Jon how glamours work, one of the examples she uses is a bag of finger bones. Thoughts? Yeah, it's a little. I mean, obviously, we're supposed to think about Davos's finger bones and what happened to them. The Davos goes into battle with the bag. Now, some people say, "Oh, he went into battle with the bag." We don't know if the bones were in it. Maybe there's a swap out. Who knows? And then he loses them in the battle. And so it's really weird when Melisandre like makes that mention. It's, everybody's like, huh, I wonder why she said that. Is she going to try to glamour him later or something? Like, what did she do? Did she steal it earlier? Like, what's going on? Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to say because it's just like, what would work? Like, why did she swap out Davos's finger bones at some point and then he lost a fake bag at the Blackwater? And when is she gonna glamour a dude to look like Davos? Some people think, oh, maybe she'll glamour a dude that looks like Davos to gain Shireen's trust so that she can burn Shireen or something. But when she did this switch, I don't know. It's sneak into Davos's room in the middle of the night, be like, finger bones. I mean, that's also like, at the time she's like, is she just gonna have that? Like, I'll have, I might need to impersonate Davos at some point, so I'm gonna sneak into his room and steal his finger bones. But obviously George like wanted us to be like, what was it? Like, we're supposed to all be like doing that, but does George actually have a plan for it, or is he just making us all go, I don't know. I don't know if I can think of a way that she would use it, and who would be glamoring, who she would use to glamour as one of her guards. She makes look like Davos. I don't know. Any endgame theme for Dunk not being a knight? Ergo, Jaime and anyone he anoints, Brienne also not being knights. What statement is George R. R. Martin trying to make? I mean, there's this idea that, okay, maybe he knights Egg, and then Egg knights Barristan, and therefore Barristan's not a knight. But that he knights, or somebody knights I mean, the people that Jaime knighted was Arthur Dane, right? So you have to, but the problem with it is that I think even if you're a king and you're not a knight yourself, you would still be able to knight somebody. And so, like, even if he knighted Egg, Egg would then still be a king, and so he can knight whoever he wants. So I'd have to think, like, I mean, we could have like another knight be. Does it say who Arthur Dane was knighted by? We could invent a character in between. He was that knighted Arthur Dane, like that somebody like really respects Dunk, and they're like, I want you to knight me, and he knights him, and then that guy ends up knighting Arthur Dane. And then Arthur Dane knights Jaime, and then Jaime knights Brienne, and it's a big chain of like not really being knights. That's all possible. But I mean, the chain is all fun and stuff, but I mean the but yeah, it has to do with like what's a person's character, and does being a knight really matter? Yeah, but it's pretty essential though that Dunk is not a knight. None of the dialogues make sense in the story, and him being nervous at different times if he's not a knight. But I think George R. R. Martin is trying to say that like titles don't really mean anything. It's about like character. You decide for yourself your moral code, and you decide for yourself what it is to be a good person, and it's not based on some sort of code, like honorable code, like knightly code. It's about your decisions, you know. New Berserk with the boys when Carmine, you want to do Berserk with the boys this week? If we can get Trey.
I think Trey is on fucking vacation. I know he never posts on. I know he never posts on Blue Sky, much to your protest. But let me look on Twitter real quick. One of these days, I'm afraid I'm gonna get on Twitter. I'm gonna see his fucking cock in my face.
Afraid? What are you talking about?
I love Trey, but not that way. Trey the. There he is. Yeah, he's right here. May 5th on Pacific Beach, San Diego. I started my attempt to complete the J. Still Brown my life, traveling uninterrupted for the next month, documenting my journey across the country along the way. Wish me luck. So for the last month, he's been going all over the country.
Yeah.
So I don't know where he is right now. I'll have to message him.
Okay, maybe he'll be back soon.
I think he's on at the Rockies. Where is he? What the fuck? Where is he?
Finger bones is just George R. Martin gardening. Probably George R. Martin has no plan for the finger bones. I have an irrational hatred of the Ares chapter, such a pointless POV that should have been an Ariane point of view and cast shade over all the other new point of views. So the reason that he exists as a single point of view is because George didn't plan for these to be points of view, like in the sense of their own point of view chapter. George had planned for when he had the 5-year gap idea after Storm. He said, okay, I'm going to have this 5-year gap, but the 5-year gap doesn't make sense because Oberyn died and the Iron Islands have a new leader, and that was all established in Storm of Swords. So we need to have a reaction from the Iron Islands and Dorne on what happened in the 5 years. So we need at least that. And he's like, okay, but it's a little weird to have regular chapters and then go into the rest of the story that's 5 years later. So I'll do a special prologue, a special one-time mega prologue that's going to be different. And I'm going to have all these short little vignettes going from place to place, going from person to person in the mega prologue, and then we can move on. We'll have the 5 year. We'll jump the 5 years, but we'll at least have the Ironborn Dornish story in the mega prologue. So he wasn't worried about like any of the other like keeping with point of views. He was just thinking like, okay, if I'm telling one story about like what's happening in Dorne, I can hop to whatever character I want that's most convenient. And so like the most convenient was like, I can start with Ares and then move to Arion and then stay with Arion. Like the story just, works well. And when I deal with the Ironborn, it works best to go, Victarion, Asha, Aeron, and Aeron, and then Victarion again. And then that's done. It's fine. And then the prologue got really, really long. And he's like, oh, this is not working as a prologue because this is like fucking 300 pages. Fine, I'll break it into chapters. And now he has all these new points of view. And it's because it was because he was planning it as a mega prologue, he wasn't worrying about introducing new points of view. Because you are right. Everything that happens in the Ares Oakheart chapter, like there's some minor stuff here and there, but like it could have been done from Arion's point of view. I mean, we could have probably not had the Melisandre chapter too, but like there was a little bit of like sending him off, like sending Mance off. But we could have probably not had, and like I say, we could have probably not had the Jon Con chapter. That probably could have been done from Tyrion's point of view. But he did it. So the irrational hatred that you have for Ares Oakheart, it's a relic of it being an evolution of the mega prologue. Like George wasn't focused on keeping it all in points of view, in the same set points of view. He was just writing this mega prologue, and then the mega prologue got too long. So, will Dunk get really knighted? I'm scared. I'm a little scared that that they're gonna misinterpret everything, and that they'll actually like have a scene of Arlen like knighting Dunk. I have this like it's like a 3% fear. Like I'm just like, what if they read it and they didn't get it? They didn't get the whole point. Like, what if they didn't get it and they actually think that like Dunk is a knight, and they like do a flashback to like Arlen on his deathbed being like, I knight you. Like, wouldn't that be really horrible? Like, wouldn't that be really horrible if they fuck up like that and they have like an Arlen of Pennytree like knighting Dunk when like the whole point is that Dunk is not a knight? I'm really fearful that scene will happen, and that I will rage. that I'll be like, no, what are you doing? The whole point is he's not a knight.
George said he's satisfied with it from what he's seen, so I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, it's true. Any thoughts on the recent Thunderbolts Marvel movie? Seems far better than it had any right to be, much like Guardians of the Galaxy. People said it's really nice, really good, and that it's like smaller scale and everything and cooler. But I haven't seen it yet. I mean, have you seen Thunderbolts yet?
Just the ending scene. I went online and I saw it.
You just decided to spoil yourself.
No, just it doesn't matter, but only the end credit scene, which sets up the future.
Yeah, old outline, circa 2003, 2004. This says Aerys would duel Balon, which is how they wanted it from Aerys' point of view. Oh, like the Queenmaker chapter would be from his point of view, and then he'd like die and lose his head or something. No. Originally, Aerys doesn't die. Like in his original plan, Aerys was going to live, and that maybe there would be another POV of his, but he ends up, then he changed his mind and had Aerys die, lose his head. But yeah, originally Aerys survives the battle, and then George changed it. Oh, Carmine, what did you want to talk to me about something where I'm not supposed to?
Where can I send this to you? Facebook or Discord?
Yeah, send you Facebook. Send me some Facebook. Yeah.
If I'm gonna send this to you, you can't be like distracted with the fucking comments. You gotta be all in.
Okay, I'm fine.
Are you sure? Because I know you can't walk and chew gum. You gotta be all in, because this requires you want to click on one more just in case.
What? No, we're at the end here. What's the?
So on the topic of the dagger. Oh, by the way, our friendship will be tested if you don't include the dagger in the fanfic. I just want to make that clear. I mean,
the dagger, like I already mentioned, the dagger. Already in Tyrion 3, we kind of undid the Joffrey sending the cats.
But the dagger needs to show up. Just want to make that clear.
Oh, like physically, the dagger needs to show up. Who has it? Littlefinger still?
I'm pretty sure he has it.
Yeah, it'll be back. Somehow.
Okay. But no, on the topic of the dagger,
he's like, we need the Aerys chapter to introduce the ambiguity of Myrcella's identity. Right. I mean, I make use of the Aerys chapter in the fanfic. Yes. But yes. Okay. But yes, about the dagger. You said you had something about the dagger.
So Andor did the dagger. You know how the dagger is going from House of the Dragon to Game of Thrones?
Okay.
Andor has its own dagger, okay? And it's a scene that you and I were like, huh? That doesn't make any sense. But some
Okay.
crackhead on Reddit pointed it out, and I'm like, motherfucker, Tony Gilroy, holy shit. So let me break it down to you. In the last, you gotta focus. In the last scene of the last episode, Vel holds up the gun and she goes, "Whose is this?"
Right.
And Melshi's like, "That's mine."
Okay. Should I know? Should I know
hold
that
on.
gun?
Let me just ask you. I'll set it up. Let me ask you.
Yeah.
Whose gun does that really belong to?
Is it Han Solo's blaster?
No, and it's that. No, this doesn't even look like. What
Is
if
it,
I told you?
What
What if I told you that gun belongs to Cyril?
That gun belongs to Cyril?
Yes. In season 1, episode 3, when Cyril comes to Ferrix, he brings that gun with him, and he's trying to ambush Cassian, but Cassian ambushes him first, takes the gun from him. Then in the next episode, Cassian goes to Aldhani, and that guy Skeen, he takes the gun from Cassian. He's like, "Oh, Vel asked me to take a look at your weapons. Corporate issue, interesting. Whose is this?" And Cassian says, "Didn't get a name." After the Aldhani heist, Cassian goes to the vacation planet, gets arrested, gets sent to the prison, escapes the prison with Melshi, goes back to the vacation planet to get his money and the gun, and then ends up giving the gun to Melshi, who then takes it all the way to season 2. And that is, hold on, let me send this to you. And that is the journey of the gun. Fucking Tony Gilroy did the dagger from Game of Thrones House of the Dragon, and it was 100 times better.
Well, I mean, hold on. I mean, it's also in the sense I don't like these scenes. I don't fucking remember it. I mean, it's like one of these like fan Easter egg things. Okay, so Cyril has the dagger, and then it's taken from him.
The gun.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. Cyril has the dagger. Cyril has the dagger. He's got Cassian takes it, and then he takes it to the planet.
He takes it to Aldhani, the heist planet.
Yeah.
And then Skeen.
Corporate issue. Interesting. Okay, whose is this? Didn't get his name, but later
didn't get a name. Who are you?
Yeah.
Goes to the vacation planet, gets arrested, meets Melshi at the prison, breaks out with Melshi, gives it back to Melshi.
Yeah. Who's this belong to? And then he says it's me. Okay.
It all comes back, baby. It all comes back.
I guess, but it's like, what's the like? Where is this? Like, it's one of these things that we didn't remember, but it's like, what's the point? Like, what's the point? Like, why should I care about this one gun? Like, maybe this gun is going to be really important at some point. But maybe, Cyril's already dead.
But here's the thing, though. This is what I think Easter eggs should be, because when Tony Gilroy did Rogue One, it was literally like, remember this? It's that guy that Obi-Wan chops his head. Watch yourself. Like, Red 5. Red 5 was originally like this chubby Asian kid, and then he dies, and then Luke takes it. Like, it's constantly in your face cameos and like remember berries.
Right. No, this is a lot more subtle.
This is more subtle.
Because we thought that the ending was not for the gun, but to bring back, oh yeah, that character is here. I thought it was to cameo him, not the gun. But you're saying it was actually to cameo the fucking gun.
Sure, yeah. Well, not cameo. How are you not getting this? It's Preston. It's fun. It's fun.
It's fun, but like I hope that gun does something on Tuesday. On Tuesday, I'm looking forward to that fucking gun doing something big.
Well, here's the thing, though. Here's why it's great. It doesn't have to do anything. It's one of those things where if you notice it, and it's fun. It's one of those things where you take it after. Also, this is probably the funniest meme I've seen so far with Andor.
Parents chilling at home watching the news on Coruscant.
If I was Pern, I'd be very upset. Mom, come on, you could have at least told me you were committing treason before you did it, so I could get out of here in time. We forgot to talk about Pern. Poor Pern.
Hold on a second. Oh, yeah, it's true. Pern, that's Mon's husband. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. He's like, fuck, what did my wife do? Like, that's
Could've given
weird
me
to
a
like
text.
all of a sudden find out that your wife's been doing all this shit, and you're like, oh my god, my wife is like the secret leader of a rebellion. Holy shit!
And couldn't
Like,
even give him a heads up before she made that speech. That motherfucker's probably chilling in a gulag right now because she couldn't even tell him ahead of time.
so now I've got to be like, this gun has to be doing something. It's gonna be shooting the Night King at the end. What is it doing? Is it shooting? Is it?
It's fun, you motherfucker.
Is it shooting? Is it gonna be shooting
fun.
Vader?
For me. It's hold on, let me get this cat out of here. For me, it's essentially Tony Gilroy making up for being so obvious with Easter eggs instead of making it nice and subtle and kind of intelligent.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Carmine, I understand that you're like, oh, this is just fun because it's just this.
It's cool as fuck.
It's mainly confusing to me, and not in confusing that I don't understand that a gun is moving around. I understand a gun is moving around. I'm saying, what's the significance of it? You know, like,
I don't know how to explain it more to you. I don't know how to explain it more.
What's the significance of the gun? Like, you know, what does it mean? What does it mean? I don't know.
I don't
know.
We're
gonna find out Tuesday. Gonna find out on Tuesday what it all means.
I don't think the gun's coming back Tuesday. Melchi is such a.
It's the last 3 episodes on Tuesday. The last 3. It's done.
Well, Nuke. Nuke Marine made a very good point. I feel like I was already touching on that, but you're right. A big problem with me is that I feel as though people would get it, but I should be more clear. Nuke made a very good point. You missed one theme. Andor's actions touch the lives of many, and you could see that in the gun. Okay, I feel like I was getting that across, but I guess not.
Okay. I mean, but it could have been. I mean, I don't know. It could have been done with a handkerchief or something. I don't know why it has to be a gun.
The dagger.
I mean, it's kind of like it reminds me of the fucking umbrella from How I Met Your Mother. How he like ends up with
that was stupid.
The umbrella, and then it ends up back with her again after like a bunch. He like has her umbrella for a couple of years, and then it ends up back with her.
That's dumb. That I hated that umbrella crap. Please stop reminding me of that last season. I would argue last season How I Met Your Mother is probably worse than last season Game of Thrones.
No, that umbrella thing was like the whole way through. The roundabout of the umbrella going back. The umbrella coming back. You know. I maintain that Drink is Gary Lannister's son. I mean, just because he's blonde and Gary Lannister is blonde, I mean, that's the extent of it. Can't Drink just be... I mean, think of this. We'll have some more interesting things to do with Gary than be hanging out in Dorne, father and Drinkwaters. Is he marrying a Drinkwater? He wouldn't have let. I don't know. Wouldn't have left him Drinkwater. I think Gareth Drinkwater's father is Mr. Drinkwater. Lord Drinkwater or Sir Drinkwater, somebody. We'll see. A little bird pulls the trigger from Peter's belt, holds it to his neck. I told you not to trust me, Peter. Who are you? It doesn't have to make sense. That's true. I mean, I just want but does Luke or Han Solo use that gun eventually? I don't know. Like, that's the thing is, what if... No, because at this point in the story, Han already got his blaster. From
his mentor?
Yeah.
Isn't that like all in Solo?
Yeah, because the Han Solo movie already happened. So Han has his blaster at this point. So it's not Han's blaster, like painted or anything.
No, it's corporate issue.
Okay, interesting, as they say.
Han's is more...
Not really very interesting. That gun will never be seen again. I'm going to be really confused if it's not seen again, because I'm going to be like, how? What? How?
Oh, by the way, someone in your comment section was like, Bix was healed by the Force. When the fuck?
I think they were joking.
Were they joking? Because I can't tell with these idiots in the comments sometimes. I have no idea. Because when the fuck does Force healing heal like psychological damage?
Well, it's also okay. I thought about this for a second, and I was like, is it possible that Bix went to the Force healer and had her trauma healed by the Force healer person? And I would say no, because Andor doesn't like the Force healer, and had the Force healer healed Bix, he would be like, that Force healer is awesome, right? So I mean, then you could argue, okay, maybe she went to the Force healer secretively and didn't tell Andor, but I don't know why she would not tell Andor. You know, she could, like, why wouldn't she just be like, oh yeah, she really helped me. I think she can help you. So
I do think they dropped the ball on the big stuff, because her finding religion,
she was not healed by the Force healer. That would
she wasn't healed by them, but they should have had her like be a Force follower, because remember in Rogue One, that's a whole other thing with those characters. The dudes from Donnie Yen's character is like a priest for the Force. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So I really do think that she should have found God / the Force, and that would have kind of like, you know, helped her come to terms with it.
Hey PJ, George has been showing flaws in different government forms. What he's been saying by Bran King, a philosopher king, like in Plato's Republic, or a Skynet thing, right? Your thoughts. Here's the thing: is I specifically went down this this rabbit hole because I too read Ice and Fire. I'd have run into a lot of people that see this as well, because there's a lot of talk about, like, you know, justice and the idea of, if you read Plato's Republic, the philosopher kings need to be raised in this like specific environment that makes them to be the best rulers. Like Plato's ultimate desire is that like the philosopher kings would be perfectly bred in this like one environment to make them the best rulers. And so there's this idea of like Varys' speech at the end of A Dance with Dragons, where he talks about how Aegon's raising makes him the perfect like king. He's the perfect philosopher king because he's studied, you know, religion and history and philosophy and has like lived with the common people and all of this. Okay. So I had finished A Dance with Dragons, and I was very convinced that there was a connection to Plato's Republic. And then I saw similar kind of things in other stuff that George had written. Not to mention in Plato's Republic, they talk about how violet-eyed people are the most beautiful people in the world, and that's just a fact, and all these things where I was just like, oh my God, George must have been reading this. And so when I met George R. Martin, I specifically asked him about, like, if you put Plato's Republic into his writing. And George was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I think I read Plato's Republic in college, but I don't know what you're talking about. And I was like, oh. And it's been really weird because I've since like talked to other people who are like, George must be lying. Like the Plato's Republic stuff is so clear. I don't understand. And so like, and I'm like, no. I mean, I fully believe that George R. Martin did not intentionally put in Plato's Republic, and you know, he had no reason to lie to me, and that I was imagining it. But what's a little comforting is that I was nowhere near the only person to imagine it. Like many people I came across had also thought that there were aspects of Plato's Republic in Ice and Fire. And so I was thinking about this a lot, and I was like, I wonder how this happened. And then I read that C.S. Lewis actually wrote a whole bunch of the Chronicles of Narnia are supposed to relate to Plato's Republic. That C.S. Lewis was the one that actually like did this. And I was like, maybe on some sort of like, because George R. Martin's read C.S. Lewis and almost all fantasy writers have read C.S. Lewis, that maybe there is some sort of chain of, you read C.S. Lewis and you're so influenced by C.S. Lewis that the Plato's Republic stuff just naturally like bleeds in without people realizing it. But yeah. So I wiped my ass with Plato's Republic. So it's odd. I mean, it's very odd that I came out of A Dance with Dragons so utterly convinced that it was Plato's Republic that I wasted George R. Martin's time asking about it, and George R. Martin told me in my face, like, I have no idea what you're talking about, dude. Like, I was like, oh, okay. But he goes, no, Preston, he was actually lying to you. Like, I mean, I don't think he was, but you know, I'm not the only person that's read Ice and Fire and saw Plato's Republic in it. And so, but it's George claims it wasn't there, and I was imagining it. So, yeah, so that's that. Plato through tertiary osmosis, maybe. Yeah, do I think Andor season 2 should have been 5 seasons? Absolutely, it should have been 5 seasons. That would have been fucking awesome. Then we'd be eating good. We'd be eating good for the next decade. Fucking great.
Maybe not 5, maybe 1 more. I'm afraid of stuff going on for too long and then it getting bad over time.
They could have done a nice 4. 4. I think they could have done more than 3, but I think they could have done 4 solid great seasons. You know, and no one's sick of it. You know, no one wants to move on with their lives. 4 great seasons would be done. That would be fucking.
I don't know.
Great.
4 seasons of them trying to catch this asshole Luthen. Him making speeches every other. I don't know, man.
I mean, Luthen doesn't need to make it through the whole thing. I'm just looking at Tony Gilroy's talent and Diego Luna's talent, like seeing the talent of everybody involved, and you know, but I think that we would have a really good product. I mean, at this point, I think everybody knows that Tony Gilroy is good at his shit now. Like he's mastered his craft, and whatever he does next, people are going to be fucking lining up. They're going to be lining up.
We'll see.
You're like, I remember The Bourne Legacy. That movie was mid.
I actually never saw any of the Bourne films. I'm not really.
They run together. They run together. They're hard to differentiate in your mind.
On social, I wrote how Kathleen needs to fly a fucking AC-130 filled with money to this motherfucker's house and beg him and his team to just run Star Wars. Like, he needs to be the Kevin Feige of Star Wars. Because, I mean...
you can make the comparison, but I think George is too focused on war. That's interesting. About the Plato's Republic, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just definitely going through like the phases on like, oh, dictatorship leads to, democracy leads to dictatorship. These sorts of transitions and things like that. But I was thinking about the whole thing, especially the fucking Aegon on the pole boat. I was just like, oh, so sure that was the training of a philosopher king, but George said no. I mean, Oh well. Yeah, I feel like, well, the thing is does everybody include themes and illusions by accident? Did Shakespeare really think of all of the things that people have pinned on Shakespeare? Like, was there really an Oedipus situation between Hamlet and his mom? Or are we all just imagining that? Isn't 90% of literary analysis the reader imagining shit, right? So 10% intended, 90% imagined. Oh. Anyway, Carmine, do you have any last things before I take off this evening?
Still can't believe you don't see the importance of this fucking blaster, bro. Like,
Look,
it's I can't
I
believe
am
this.
excited now about this fucking blaster on Tuesday.
No, you shouldn't be. That's the point. It's a nice little thing that's not a big deal, but it's nice. It's nice.
They ended an episode with "Whose gun is this?" And then the waif looked at the camera and winked. And
What episode did you see?
Okay.
This guy here, Popcorn Perspective, shout out to him. He said they pulled it off without making it into something annoying like the cat's dagger. Exactly. Like, it's one of those, it's kind of how I would love for Easter eggs, especially in Star Wars, to be going forward. It's one of those things where it doesn't set the world on fire, but it's nice when you notice it. It's nice when you like see it.
Yeah.
You know I'm right on this. I'm right on this.
I mean, I think they kind of focused on it a little too much then. I'm just saying. And I don't know. I'm trying to think of other things where like an item is just kind of just passed on like that in the background. And people kind of remember it, but yeah. All right, one last super chat. Good idea. Fagon actually would be a great king like Rhaegar and Baelor, but eventually to his own death before they wear the crown. Yeah, I think that's perhaps the point. That Dany's gonna come in and like kill him, and that it's just too bad. Or Aegon's gonna get grayscale. I mean, I'm trying to think of like what's the saddest thing that could happen is that Jon Con gives his own son grayscale. And then has to live with the fact that he's like fucking passed grayscale onto his own son. Like that's like the worst thing that could possibly like happen, like brutally. And then it was like, oh God, would that happen? It's so horrible. It'd be so horrible if like Jon Con like seats Aegon on the throne, and then he's looking at his own son's fingernail, and it's like a little black, and he's like, oh, heartbroken. Poor Jon Con. That'd just be the saddest thing in the world. Anyway, thank you, Mount Aggro Crag. But yeah, I think that's totally the point that it seems like that Aegon seems okay for now. Like he's not bad. He gets a little angry here and there, but it's okay. But it's he seems like a good guy. Better than most of the kings that we've met, right? Yeah. Anyway, Carmine, thank you for staying with me. Trying to get this in. I'm trying to go to bed. What are the faceless men spending all that money on? I don't know. I guess buying. I mean, they just keep it in the basement, right? I think there must be some connection with the Bank of Bravos or something. They have all of these rooms. You're right, that are just filled with silks and coins and money, and like they're just collecting wealth. So what are they going to use that wealth on? I don't know. Maybe they're going to buy a glass candle, buy a dragon egg, buy the Iron Bank, pay back a debt. I mean, they haven't spent any of it. They're just collecting it. Just fucking massive amount of wealth. But that's a good question. I will ponder that question, ZL. On what would they like to spend all of that money on? What could they do that would be worth their while? That fit their philosophy. They're buying a nuclear bomb to blow up the world. They're buying. They want to buy the wall. They're buying Bitcoin. They'll buy Twitter and ruin the world. I mean, if you think about like what Elon's doing, you're like, you buy a position and then you cut HIV funding to everyone for an entire continent, leading to millions of people dying.
Have you noticed he's been kind of quiet lately? You notice that?
I mean, he's still doing some stuff. It's shit. What a horrible what a
Is he
horrible
doing
human
stuff
being.
behind the scenes that's not making the news? Because he's been
Yeah, it's like
pretty
smaller
quiet.
stuff, smaller agencies. But yeah, I think he's trying to remain quiet. But yeah, he's what a fucking horrible human being. I mean, it's funny because I recently saw something with like Bill Gates and Melinda Gates separately, because they're divorced now. But
Hmm.
both of them are like, you have billions of dollars. Like, why wouldn't you just want to like help the world? I don't, like, and they're like, it's really weird that there are these people that don't want to do that because they're both planning on giving away all their money to charity. Because
It's funny you mention him because
yeah.
did you see what he said recently, Bill Gates, about Elon? How Elon is killing children with all the
Yeah.
bullshit he's doing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Oh
Bill Gates is
God.
right. He's absolutely right.
I know we went on almost an entire stream without talking about Trump, but can I bring up one thing real quick? Do you mind?
What's that?
I still, even 6 months, 5 months later, feels like longer. Even 5 months later, I still can't get over one of my good friends who is unfortunately a Trump supporter. I've known him for 10 plus years, not cutting ties just yet.
Yeah.
A very intelligent man. But when it comes to Trump, he is fucking stupid. Preston, I still cannot get over what he said to me about Trump. Because I said, yeah, Trump is in there to enrich himself. He's not in there to better this country. And he goes, I swear to God, he goes, dude, he's already rich. Why would he need to do that? I'm telling you, man, he's in there to make the country better.
Why does a man want gold? Why does a man want 2 bags of gold when he has one?
Jesus.
Yeah, it's the dumbest. Yeah, you told me. Yeah, but yeah, no, I mean, he it's pretty fucked up. It's pretty fucked up that he like specifically that's the big thing is he like, yeah, it's really sad that literally tens of thousands of people are losing their job and are feeling massive anxiety about having their lives like turned upside down. It's horrible. And there's going to be massive lawsuits costing the government 10 times what Elon claims he's saving. There's just going to be so much litigation, so many court cases about damages that are coming. It's enormous waste. I mean, it's one thing that he's just, what he's doing is just such a massively inefficient thing, and he's costing the government so much money. But specifically on like, yes, he disrupted PEPFAR and tuberculosis like funding, and like those two things together like will kill millions of people. Like when Bill Gates says that he's killing children in Africa, he literally is. He's literally killing children in Africa. Like it's just that's just a fact. But it's sad. Yeah, it's really fucking sad.
Hold on. Are you saying that Elon Musk doesn't care about African people?
Because strange that a man who was raised in apartheid South Africa.
That's Preston. That is so not true. Like, what do you mean? Like they're expediting the migration of South Africans to the United States. What are you saying?
Yes,
like he definitely cares about Africans.
Yes, the white ones. Yes.
Mm-hmm. What are you saying?
Yeah. Yeah. But
Berserk and the Boys, to answer the earlier super chatter. Trey's in the Midwest right now. In fact, according to Trey, he is in a bumfuck nowhere town, population of 500, where he's the only person at the hotel he's staying at. So, yeah.
He's the only person in the whole hotel.
I asked him if he wanted to join stream, but obviously he doesn't have his equipment with him, so.
Yeah. Okay. All right, let me get these last sorts of things. If you could pick a point of view from any character. Who? Like if I do I mean like what a chapter like George would release? I would pick a Samwell chapter. I'd want to see that. But if I could pick a point of view of any chapter of a character that we haven't heard from yet, I think I'd probably want a Loras. Just because I think there's a lot that Loras experienced in the story that I'd really want to hear about and understand.
Loras Tyrell?
Yeah, I think a Loras would be a very interesting POV for me.
I love you, but that is the waste of a chat. Really?
I mean, what do you want? Bloodraven? Like
No, I would want
the kindly man. Like
I would want something like, because we don't really have a lot of perspective from villains, or as close to villains we can get. Yeah, Victorian kind of villain, kind of Faramir six, whatever. I would kind of want like a Ramsay.
Yeah, you'd want a Ramsay.
I would want like a psychopath like Ramsay, or fuck it, the Mountain, you know, or Walder Frey, like someone a little spicy.
Walder Frey would be like, they didn't cook my dinner well enough, and now let me go. Oh, my grandson is acting like an annoying ass. Like I can see like the Mountain speaks his mind already. You don't need Walder Frey's POV. We know exactly what he's thinking.
Well, like the Mountain POV, I would want the Mountain POV to be like very well written, but every time he opens out his mouth, it's like in his head, he's incredibly intelligent, but when he opens his mouth,
the daffodils were azure in the sunlight. They looked beautiful, but all I could think about
is
was forcing.
Oh, by the way, you had a great idea. I don't know if this is actually going to happen in your fanfic. John working into Ghost is the epilogue. Ghost is the epilogue, and he meets Benjen. Was that your idea?
I don't know if he meets Benjen. I think John worked into Ghost at the end of A Dance with Dragons, and that he's going to do various things as Ghost in A Dance with Dragons, and then in the Winds of Winter, and then the epilogue is like one last thing that Ghost does, like you know. He runs into somebody, maybe he runs into Bran, maybe runs into Benjen, I don't know. But, that's the idea. Maybe he's going to be at Winterfell. Maybe he'll be north of the Wall. It's hard to say. Anyway, thank you, Sergio. And
do not do a Hodor point of view. What the fuck?
No, I mean a Hodor point of view, that would just be sad. Next, you guys will say he's a racist. I know, right? As if he like did Nazi salutes at his. Oh man.
There's something weird about being successful and then dating a hot chick and then having that hot chick break up with you and then just turning into Nazism. Like Kanye, have you seen this? Like, have you seen Kanye's new album?
Some people claim that he freaked out because his daughter is trans. You know, and
what his daughter? I didn't know anything about this.
What? Really?
Yeah, Northwest is trans?
No, Elon Musk's daughter.
Oh, I'm sorry about Kanye. Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
So,
did you see he's removing DMs from Twitter because some hot model he was trying to hit on exposed him? So
like all DMs?
I guess. Who knows? Who knows anymore? What's going on?
Man, whatever the case, the guy is like. I mean, he's off. It's any of these guys is off. Like Trump's completely he's completely brain dead now. If you've seen him in interviews, he's completely brain dead. And apparently he only remembers the last thing people say to him. And so Stephen Miller waits until the end of a meeting and then says the last thing in the meeting. Yeah.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah. Why do I believe that? Like that is
yeah. Fucking
Jesus
nuts.
Christ.
I know.
Stephen Miller just waits.
Mm-hmm. knows how to like manipulate the old man. But yeah. All right. So I will see you guys next time. Thank you everyone for being with me. And this week you'll see a dunk and egg video this week. So look forward to that. And then I'm getting to work on trying to put the Davos chapter together. So all that's happening this week. But sorry, no Berserk with the boys until Trey comes back. So thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Thank you, Carmine, for being with me.